Let me see. Let me see. Okay. Bring the mic over here, and then does desktop audio work? The hell? Bro, wait, why can't I hear shit? Wait, why can't I hear anything? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Oh shit. Long chat. We're trying to long chat. We are trying to long this shit. Okay. Why does this shit not play though? Am I on Mars, bruh? Who cares? Not important. Okay. Long. We are targeting to equalize. The long bias. Waiting for a soupy doopy doop. We got London SMT. Which is brilliant. Soup. Waiting for a soup. Okay. Now we wait. G. Here we go. Chillin', Riv. What? Why does this shit not work, bro? That's why. That is a shit. Oh shit. Shit. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Give me soup. Give me soup. Oh, there we go. Shit, there we go. Give me soup. Give me soup. Come on. Shoot, I'm gonna watch some YouTube, bro.
Players back in business going into the upcoming challenge. With a team of Attach, Havoc, Octane looking for one do? Well, we might find out in the coming days. So big storylines on that side of things, and also further talk about the snipers, whether they have to get banned right about now. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into. We're going to start here. These are the CDL standings as it stands. We're only one weekend into the league. Of course, a number of these teams have only played one series. Those teams are Boston. They started off 1-0 after their win against the Ravens. Toronto went 5 with Heretics. Both of those teams, that was the only game that they played. The same was true for Cloud9 when they played G2, but of course G2 went on to play again, ended up 1-1. Surge only played a single series. Falcons, therefore, the only team that starts off 0-2. They had a challenging opening
Come
weekend
on,
for
baby.
sure, playing against Optic and playing against Thieves.
Breaking? Oh, it's breaking.
They won one map over those couple of series. It wasn't looking great. Optic start off 2-0. Of course, they are topping up the league right now. Gentomate at 1-1. So, you know, the usual suspect as the early starters. Wonder how similar this will be when we get to the end of the season, right? Because I think Heretics, I'd like to expect them to make some...
This is just broken dead ass, bro.
progress as the season goes on. They didn't start last year especially well either, but bringing in Super did change the game. Whether Trakes is a good enough replacement for Real, I think time will tell on that one. Obviously a loss for sure, losing Real to Toronto. Metals wasn't great last year from a consistency perspective either. He's still there. Rinker and Super will need to go God mode, right? There's lots to talk about FaZe needing Simp to go insane. But I think that, you know, the same is true, probably even more so for those boys on the Heretics this season. FaZe got the 1-1. I mean, they could have started off 0-2 here, right? They could have been down there with the Falcons. They also had a challenging schedule to start. They played Thieves. The match after that, they played Gentamates, but they won it in 5 after some big turn-up performances. So we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but that is the early start anyway. Some big games to come. Lots of drama and challenges over the last few days. Thought it was pretty cool. The Barstool guys were live and they were talking about Daniel Say. They were talking about the Telluride Bush haters going down because, of course, they're coming into the scene. Bush Gaming won the first Challenger Cup. It was a big talking point over the last few days. It's cool to see guys get involved in the scene who, you know, don't really maybe know much about the way that competitive Call of Duty is, why it's so exciting, right? And especially for people that are kind of watching this development for the first time, seeing everything unfolds. Because competitive COD is such a niche but vibrant scene, and it's just cool to see new people get to experience that to an extent. But also
No
it's a great
sound.
storyline.
Why is there no
And
sound,
Challenges
bro?
is in an unbelievable spot, right? Over the last couple of years, we have had...
Oh, that was
just
11
Omen
months
Rafi
ago.
who's been running the show. Team War and some other notable names as well. We'll get back to Team War in the coming minutes because they have
That's
a few
crazy.
words
One of
to
my
say as
videos from
well. But
11
really
months ago had
Challenges
no
has been in the
sound,
depths
bro.
for quite some time. When the CDL
What
first
the-
came around, there was all that talk about the 3 pillars. Pillar 1, the pros, Pillar 2, the fans, and then Pillar 3, the challengers, right? The amateur scene, the you know, the guys trying to make it to the top level. Never really felt like, at least, I mean, at times even all 3 of those pillars were questionable in terms of their support, certainly from a challenger's perspective. Now, look, the money's gone up to a degree over the last few years for challengers. That, of course, is one thing. But mainly just, you know, more tournaments, better run tournaments. In the early days when it swapped to Face It, it was, you know, there were loads of issues. It's still not perfect now by any means, as the Bush Gaming guys found out over the last few days. There's still a fair few things they've got to solve. But this season, with some of the Halo guys coming in, there was some promise about some of the Warzone players making the switch. I can't say I've seen much about that. Maybe that was all hot air at the end of the day. I guess we'll see. But the reality is it's tough. Challengers is very competitive. The team that won the tournament the other day, the Bush Gaming boys, full of players that have all been in the league, right? Effectively pros, at least on some level. They win the tourney. This is Spart with the sniper. We'll discuss a little bit more on this here in the coming seconds. But Challengers in a good spot. Optica involved with the Huntsman. They've got Zinni coaching their guys. Obviously, Zuma's done a great job. And I think Zuma really paved the way for this in many respects because what he did with the Stallions over the last couple of years when forming this team, giving them the opportunity and the space to grow and obviously improve and give his own help to that where he possibly can, support them in the tournaments, at the LAN events and all this stuff, but also making it into a great piece of content, right? Zuma following the Stallions, all the talks about Stallions red, Stallions black, who are they going to sign, are they going to make changes? You know, Swooty was cooking last night. I thought it was pretty cool to see his development as the year goes on, and it's just a great storyline to follow, and it makes fantastic content for Zuma, right? And I think for the Bush Gaming guys, it's the same kind of thing. It's from an entertainment perspective, it's very fascinating how, yeah, they support a roster and they can make content out of said roster. And it's, you know, like a virtuous circle that benefits everyone. And other teams are seeing, hopefully, that they can benefit from something similar as well. And, you know, the grassroots of COD feels like it's at least back to a certain degree. But look, let's talk about this clip real quick. This was sparked with the sniper rifle. This actually is King of Body of the Falcons Academy, gets absolutely clattered. And look, yes, there's a lot of luck involved here. I mean, he just spins around and he no-scopes him, and it is what it is, right? Sometimes it happens. Formal and Scump were talking about it. And, you know, look, at the end of the day, the sniper is strong. Has it ruined the game so far? I think absolutely not, right? There are some questions on this whole 2-life rule that the pros are currently running with. I think personally that if you are going to keep with that, they should just take it away in round 11, right? Like, I think round 11 you should use the sniper anyway, however many lives have been used, because that's really the exciting part. I think it's good at least that the CDL casters are acknowledging that it exists from a 2-life perspective, rather than being like, wow, that's a surprise. This guy's just dropped 12 kills with the sniper this map, and he's put it away round 11. So, look, is the sniper very good? Yes. Has it ruined the way that Search and Destroy is played? Not at all, as far as I'm concerned. Even with the aim assist as it presently stands, I still think it's in a pretty good spot. We probably don't really need the 2-life rule either, to be honest. If they got rid of the aim assist, then probably we could use it fully. I mean, I think we probably should be anyway. It's at least good to have it in the game. And look, every time the pros cry about the snipers and then they eventually use them, when you actually watch the gameplay, you realize the sniper is far less of a factor than they were complaining that it actually would be. It's still a factor, don't get me wrong. We see a lot of snipers on the map from the various teams. I think that's good. It creates hype mode. I mean, imagine this in a champs final. It would be unbelievable, right? So, you know, it creates a lot of great moments like this, but equally, I don't think it's at the point where it's got to go. And every time the pros cry, they always get exposed, in my opinion, for their thoughts on the snipers. Couple of clips I'll share. That one, also this from Nadeshots. Then we will talk about the state of challenges and some of the other boys that might be getting involved.
Both teams probably going to hit middle quite a bit here. Sub's going to try to get mid-map control.
Let's see what Bush's very own Spark can do.
Oh,
what the hell?
Yo, can you play that back?
Yo, that was crazy.
Wait, does he get more?
This is the problem with aim assist. This is the problem right here.
What the f? Dude, that's one of those where, like, your teammates think you got World Star, but there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You're like, our back spawn, bro. I'll just, no, don't
I mean,
worry
that's just so unlucky.
Like, you, like, can't even, like, calm what just happened to you.
Yeah, that's super unlucky. I mean,
Alright,
shit,
no-scope.
shit on bad.
You 180
Unlucky.
no-scoped it?
Unlucky shit on.
5-4?
You're just like, what the?
Chad, we got Raid Surge coming up.
Feel like I got one in the
Obviously
back, I
down
wanna
1-0.
Yo, Damon, I got randomly served an old S&D video from MW3, like the original MW3 2011, and I was actually getting gritty with like shoulder throws and playing for info.
Okay, so SMT failed. Or got disrespected. So that means that the reversal trade is off the table as it stands. But because liquidity is so strong, I really want to target these highs. Like, there's a TJL video where he says that He has equal highs or equal session highs, relatively equal. And bro enters off a breaker structure and targets him. And I have seen that this draw is insane. But it's just... it's not part of my rules at the moment, is it? Just before market open? I mean, it's just so risky, isn't it? I would enter on a 5 minute if I did. I would never enter on a 1 minute. But I mean, if this was to hit, bro, how crazy would this be, man? 20 seconds to market open. I mean, it's against the trend as well. Like, it's 4 hour downtrend. And I wouldn't even short once we rip these because we don't have a session to target, man. That's my alarm for market open. Here we go. I mean, my 1-2-1 gets hit right there. If we SMT these highs, I'll short it. For sure. I'll definitely short these highs if we SMT. If we soup here, oh, I would be so tempted to long, like, ugh. She's not my modeler, but it's so clean, bruv. So 5 minute breaker structure right here. And we're souping. Why couldn't we hold the SMT, man? Oh, I want to take this so bad. Oh, wait. If we sweep previous day low, I'm taking. If we sweep previous day low, I'm taking it. This might get crazy, bro. Okay, I need to lock in. Now, if we actually sweep this, oh, it'll be so dirty. Oh, it'll be the this is like a full port trade. No keys. I'll take a 5 minute break. Break and retest on this previous daily sweep. Let's see what happens here. Give me this SMT and let me long, bro. Previous day low sweep. Like. Oh, what the. Oh, boom. There you go, Jamie. There you go. It looks so nice. Bro, I would even just take a 1 minute breaker structure. Like, oh, I'm so... Dude, it actually gets so hard to stick with your rules when this kind of shit happens, bro. It's insane. Like the draw is so obvious, but like you don't want to skip steps. But it's so obvious where it's going. It's so obvious. Praying for a soup, man. I'm just praying.
Oh, but when I watch like modern day COD, I'm like, bro, I wasn't playing like this. I mean, the game's a lot faster, of course, so it's gonna look different. And no bullshit, when I watched my POV in MW3, this S&D match that it was scrim against FaZe at the time, I was like, oh shit. I think the COD community got me so fucked up in the head. I mean, I think most pro players that I played against probably thought that I was ass. It's kind of like I don't actually think Censor is ass. I think Censor was good in his own right, but like whenever I would play Censor back in the day, I would think, all right, let's fucking go. But I think people thought the same thing about me, actually. They're like, okay, this motherfucker's a free kill on the map. Whatever. But the game now just looks so fucking insane. I'm like, bro, would I be getting slammed or would I be keeping up with the pace? I don't know. Shots fired? No, I don't even mean those as shots. It's just like, you gotta have delusional confidence when you're playing at a professional level in any sport or any game. And yeah, there were certain players on certain teams where I'm like, okay, I'm delusional right now because I'm playing against them. I don't think Censor was a bad player. I think Censor doesn't get enough credit for what he did for his team because he always played for the win and never played for like individual stats, but I promise you those weren't shots. I actually respect the fuck out of Doug.
Stallions Red, Stallions Black, Telluride Bush Gaming, The Huntsman, Doug Sensor Martins playing this year again as well. Loads of notable names down there in challengers, former pros, potentially future pros, all that good stuff. But in addition, we may have some other players getting involved, and that involves the following. So we know that for a lot of the former pro players, they will always have a little bit of the bug and the itch to still compete. We know that's the case with Zinni. I also think that's why Zinni is really enjoying this Huntsman project, helping those guys out, is that, you know, he can help coach that team. He can kind of live that competitive drive vicariously through that team to a certain extent, even if he's no longer competing. And for lots of these other guys, obviously Attach retired last year, Havoc's been out of it for
I mean,
a
that's
few
the trade
years
right
now,
there, bro.
but he's done phenomenal work in the content game, as we know. And Octane, I don't think has ever really, you know, Octane could have competed longer if he wants to. Everyone knows that, of course. He didn't need to retire when he did, but he decided that's what he was going to do.
5-minute break.
He has or should have any regrets about that. But look, these guys are still top quality players.
I do like taking this trade after
and well, if they came to
12:40
challenges, what would
though.
that look like? Well, obviously these guys play the game, they watch a lot of the game. Phenomenal players.
I just want to see a
in
break.
their day.
I just want to see a break and then queue,
Still
like.
today as well. So I think this is a really exciting prospect. Now, look, are they going to commit for the whole season? Are they going to play a load of LAN events? Very unlikely. I think their plan is just to play this next cup, possibly, and then, because I think for Havoc, until when Ranked comes out, he's going to be playing a fair bit of that, right? But I think to tide them over until then, I believe that this is real. Like, I think they are planning to at least play a cup and play for a little while, just to see. I think it would be fantastic for the scene again, because we see a lot of, you know, former pros. Let's say that Bush Gaming team with TJ Prolude and those boys, Capsule, Spars. You know, with Sin, that's exactly the team that you would expect to be towards the top of the challengers, right? Like, bunch of
Previous
players
Dalo
that
SMT.
before, some of them maybe get back into the league. Also, Doug's team is pretty good. I mean, he's got that team with Johnny on it as well over at Next.
Oh, I actually write
Express,
it
I think
down,
they're
bro.
playing with at the moment. they're pretty solid. Diamond Con's over there as well. So yeah, for sure some talent. Then you've got players like on the Stallions who are showing their potential. They can get into the league in the future potentially for the first time. But to see all those various
5-minute
rosters,
break
seems
and
sort of the
retest
Huntsmen
is
in
literally
many respects as well, face up against a team of effectively veterans would be really interesting. So Attach says, team of 3 for Black Ops 7 Challengers with Octane and Havoc, looking for one. We are here to win. Let us know. So great tweet. And then Aches in the reply says, I can lock in for 1 cup. Attach is like, well, hang on a second, you know, you can't be serious about this. But he says, at Benjay, update the flank schedule. We got a cup to win. I'm going in. So if they actually pull this off, look, I think Attach, Octane and Havoc are serious. I never really tell with Aches whether he's serious or not. But that would be quite the team, and it would be fascinating to see how they got on. I think Challengers this season, so many great storylines down there, as we have discussed. It was always going to be very interesting. Challengers is always pretty interesting at the start of a season because people want to look at, okay, who's looking good, who's not looking so good, who's going to get signed after Major 1 when some of these teams bomb out of the tournament. Of course, last year, all the talk was about Hook, right? Because it's like, damn, Hook's in Challengers? Are we serious? And then it wasn't long after that, Optic picked him up, dropped him again, then picked him up again, then he won Champs, then he won the World Cup. Now he's looking like the best player in the game, or, you know, not far off anyway. Hook is pretty damn good at this title. That will come as no
boom, break a
surprise.
structure.
So Challenger's always interesting at the start of a title, but especially this year, and especially if we can get some veterans down there, just to see how they would fare, right? Because, okay, they might not have the grinder mentality that I used to have when they're younger, but they've certainly got the talent still, and they know how to win stuff, right? Certainly that is the case for these gentlemen here. So excited if this goes anywhere. Even Doug says, welcome to the pit, right? Because, yeah, the pit is out of control this season. At least the first couple of months. I think this whole year Challenges is going to be very exciting to
So
follow,
essentially,
with all
let's
the
just go over it
personalities
again.
and the characters getting involved, not even just the players.
You've got a
right, but,
previous
you know,
Dalo
Barstool guys and
SMT.
all of that. Very
I'm waiting for a
exciting to see how it
5-minute
plays out.
break
I
and
think especially the
retest.
first couple of months, that
On
will be
NQ.
true, as it usually always
But it
is.
has to happen
In addition
before
to
we
this,
reach
so
the
Team Wall
highs on
says
ES.
that if you guys are
Normally,
interested,
I only
we are
trade
happy
till
to promote
5-minute
you guys to the
equilibrium.
majors. Now, whether they need that or whatever, like, it's obviously a question. I somewhat doubt this will actually happen. As I say, I think it's likely that these guys might play a
Delta
cup.
4.
Whether they're going to want to play a LAN event as a team together, I don't know. But I thought it was cool that Team War put it
We've
out.
got
there.
our
It was like, hey,
break.
if you guys are serious, you want to go
Confirmation
to
of
Major 1 and
this,
compete,
and I want to
then
enter.
we are happy to help make that happen. And that would be pretty
Thing is,
spectacular,
normally I would
think, as well.
only
There's
enter
so many eyes on
1
Challenges
hour
if
equilibrium,
this
but
was actually the case. So Gromotson, Twitter, your thoughts on
the
all
draw
this
is
stuff in
so
the comment
strong.
section below. Just one final thing to mention, a little Brian stats. 5 players in COD history have won back-to-back lands in their rookie year. Miracles did it in 2013. Crim did it.
Probably gonna rip 10 contracts here. Yeah, I'll rip 10. I mean, it's looking really good. When it's equal highs, bro, like, just rip the 1-to-1. I need a really strong close. Let's see what close we get. I actually don't like this close too much. I would want this shit to shoot up, bro. It actually doesn't even look good. I would prefer close by the breaker structure. I'm not entering that. Shit, bruh. Capital of Evil.
Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. A disgrace is what Jamie Carragher is describing Mo Salah as for his outburst after the Leeds game. He says it's choreographed. He says he's thrown his club under the bus. And he also says that Mo Salah has been throwing right backs under the bus for the last 8 years by not tracking back. What are your thoughts on Jamie Carragher's response to Mo Salah? We knew it was coming. Mo Salah knew it was coming. He referenced it in his outburst on Saturday night. But look, ultimately, I think that the first thing I would say is that, look, Jamie Carragher doesn't like Mo Salah. That's the perception, and you know he can deny that, but it was a long reaction to something that I thought didn't even need a reaction that big. To say it was choreographed was interesting. This is what he said. I thought it was a disgrace what he did after the game, and I do agree with that, by the way. But he also goes on to say, some people have painted it as an emotional outburst. I don't think it was. I think whenever Mo Salah stops in a mixed zone, which he's done 4 times in 8 years, it's choreographed by him and his agent to cause maximum damage and to strengthen his own position. Basically saying that Mo Salah's about himself and nobody else. He's selfish, and this is not about Liverpool, it's about Mo Salah, and that's all he really cares about. Look, the response is fine. Mo Salah even referenced Carragher in his outburst on Saturday. But I think over the last year, it's quite clear that Jamie Carragher, for whatever reason, doesn't really like Mo Salah. He certainly, you know, was very condescending of him in his final few months before he signed the contract, and then Trent didn't sign the contract and didn't get anywhere near the treatment many of us suspected Salah would have got from Carragher. So for whatever reason, you know, Carragher doesn't like him. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think Liverpool fans have a problem with that. I think, you know, some people don't like Bruno Fernandes at Manchester United.
I don't like this because Jota coming out now.
Jamie Carragher has the right to do that. I don't think he'd ever admit he doesn't like Mo Salah, but there is certainly something that grinds his gears there. I think it's very obvious, and he's not wasted this opportunity to go in on him. But I don't agree it was choreographed. I don't agree it was choreographed, because I think if it was choreographed, what does Mo Salah get out of this? I personally think it was a disgrace what he did. I'll come to that in a moment. But I think what caused it is sitting on the bench at Ellen Road and not getting any minutes.
What's up? What's up?
And realizing
You just joined. I've got Carragher in the back, yeah. Previous day low SMT. Divergence. Looking for longs. So I could have actually longed here because I had a soup there, but I didn't like it because I want the soup to happen after we sweep the previous day low. So I didn't enter, and now I'm waiting for a 5-minute. We got a 5-minute break, and I'm waiting for a confirmation candle. above this 50%. We can get that. We're in, baby. We're in. Targeting a 1-to-1, simple as. 30 seconds till the scanner closes. But I need a strong close though. $59. 59575. 5 seconds. I don't know. I don't like it, man. Just looks shit. It would have looked like this if I entered that, but just a shit close. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna take a trade today. Unless we soup this low. Not ideal. I feel like we're definitely gonna. This is gonna get rinsed. This is gonna give a crazy spike. That's what the trade would have been. I mean, if it hits, it hits, bro. I don't want to take risky trades.
Even in a Liverpool side that's bottling leads like that, he can't even get minutes on the pitch. And I think he's walked out impromptu, said what he said in a state of frustration. Because I don't see why you would plan it. I don't think why you would be waiting to do that. You're breaching your contracts. You're massively damaging your legacy, and you're upsetting the people that matter. Now, look, I think all top players are egotistical and self-centered. I don't think there's a problem with that. Ronaldo is. I'm sure Messi is. To be the best, you've got to believe you're the best. So I ain't got a problem with arrogance or anything like that. But I don't think he choreographed it. I don't think it was planned because it wouldn't make sense to do that. What comes out of this? Ultimately, you're probably ending your Liverpool career under a cloud to get a move elsewhere that you probably would have got anyway. And as I said yesterday, I firmly believe that, look, Carragher's got his own axe to grind, and it's an opportunity to jump in and go, look at the way he's treated my club, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, how do you solve this issue? There's a picture of Mo Salah today in an empty Liverpool training ground, taking a picture of himself while Liverpool are in Italy playing a big game against Inter Milan. This battle of wills continues, and what I think needs to happen is you have Mo Salah, who's one of the greatest players to play in the Premier League. You've got Liverpool, one of the greatest clubs in the world, and you've got a situation where they're both pitted against each other. Whatever the scenario is going to be, and I don't think it's really possible for Slot to bring Salah back in because it undermines Slot now. I think there has to be a parting of the ways. But you need to do that in a way where you get in a room, maybe you let it calm down a little bit, but you get in a room and go, look, it hasn't ended the way we wanted it to end, but what a journey. Let's play this out in a way where, because Liverpool Football Club don't want Liverpool fans disliking Salah, and surely Salah doesn't want Liverpool fans turning on Liverpool Football Club. So you've got to get to a point where respect is there for both, and you move away from it in a situation whereby in the future Mo Salah maintains that legendary status at the club where he's not heading off to Barcelona or Real Madrid, he's right at the end of his career. That's what they need to get to. People need to stop chucking petrol on the fire, whether that's from Salah's side or from Liverpool's side. So they need to get to that point. And I feel that, some of this from Carragher probably adds, flames to the fire in the sense that, where he said that, he's a legendary figure and all those players get a privilege, exactly the same one as Salah gets at Liverpool. He doesn't have to chase back. That's what he has at Liverpool. But when we're talking about throwing people under the bus, he's thrown the Liverpool right back under the bus for 8 years. Imagine playing behind him for 8 years. I mean, that is an incredible statement when you think about how Trent Alexander-Arnold was, pretty much hailed as one of the best right backs we've ever produced. for many years playing behind Mo Salah. So what
True.
we're talking about there, that Mo Salah's been throwing right backs under the bus for the last few years, whilst being the player that's made Liverpool ridiculously talented and ridiculously successful, along with Trent. I think some of it's just crossing the line of whatever personal vendetta they've got going on between each other. I think ultimately, what you don't
NQ is
want
so bearish,
what
bro.
happens in the modern game, which is this, club against player thing, because there are fans out there that value players over clubs. It's weird to me because the club is everything, but some people do follow players more than they follow a club. And I've already seen people on social media backing Salah over Liverpool who are Liverpool fans. So you just don't want that going on. The bottom line is, no player should be coming out after a bad performance and making a statement like that throws the club under the bus. They shouldn't be doing that because it's disrespectful to the club. It's disrespectful to the fans. Mo Salah's not right for doing that. And anybody who thinks that he is, I can't get on board with that. He shouldn't do that. He shouldn't go out straight after a game, get the press together, who are vultures. These are not your mates. These are not fans. He's talking to vultures who he knows full well are going to put it everywhere. That was out of order. Now you can put it in a drawer and say, look, you were emotionally charged. You're not a politician. You're a top class, world class, legendary status footballer who emotionally has just felt, pissed off and gone and done something. But there needs to be an apology, and there needs to be an acceptance that's out of order, because we can't have players doing that. It'd be a very entertaining Premier League if we had players doing this after every game, but you can't have that. The respect moral code has to be there. But that mistake needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be acknowledged from both sides. And comments about he's never won the AFCON with Egypt, or he's thrown right backs under the bus for years, and things like that. It's just petty. It's petty at the end of the day. I mean, I don't know what status Jamie Carragher earns under the Liverpool, but surely he's one of your legends, and Mo Salah is definitely is one.
This
So
guy, bro.
calm it down. Emotions are running a bit high, and work to a situation where Mo Salah is going to leave Liverpool and maintains that legendary status, and Liverpool comes out of it with respect, because Liverpool must win. They must be the. It's not about owners. It's not about slot. I think if you take it into slot or the owners, you might side with Salah. It's about Liverpool Football Club and what that stands for. We're in a situation at United at the moment where I don't like our owners, I don't really like the manager that much, and I don't really like the players. But I love Manchester United because it's what Manchester United represents to me. It's not. The owners don't represent Man United, the manager doesn't, and the players doesn't. You want them to, but if they're not doing it the way you want to and the standards that you have, then it's just the name that means something to you. And that's what this is. It's not about Jamie Carragher, it's not about Arne Slot, it's not about the owners, it's about Liverpool and Mo Salah. And he's crossed the line there because fans don't want players coming out and doing that, and he shouldn't have done it. And that's why he has a contract, and that's why professionalism should be there. But I do think Carragher's made it a little bit about their ongoing sort of back and forth that they're having, and it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to go that far. I think ultimately where we get to is that he's not playing against Inter. I don't think he'll play against Brighton. Then you're into the AFCON. That gives the club and the player a month to resolve the issue, and maybe he comes back after a month and everything's okay, or maybe January transfer window he goes. But in that time, if he's going to go, there does need to be something done, some sort of, even if it's Liverpool's press marketing going over to the AFCON and doing something for camera, there needs to be some parting of the ways professional.
What the hell?
Today we discuss the idea of capital. Now, you may have learned in economics class that capital means money or wealth. What I want to argue to you today is that capital is really a mechanism to extract energy from you. Okay? And what's important to understand is that in a universe where consciousness is the universe, then what energy is ultimately is attention and focus. Okay? So it's not enough for you to work at something. You also have to concentrate on it in order for capital to extract energy from you. Okay? All right. So with this in mind, let's discuss an example.
Here we
right?
go. News coming out in 40 seconds.
Okay. So the most basic example is you have a landlord class, and they're trying to extract energy from the peasant class. Okay? Now, before, traditionally, we've understood energy as maybe grain. Okay? Grain. Capital. But the problem with this is you're actually not that extracting that much energy from the peasant because it's not that hard to grow grain. Also, grain can be stored. Okay? So, in other words, as a landlord, your priority is not necessarily just to extract rent from the peasant. Your priority is somehow to get the peasant to focus entirely on the task at hand. And to do that, over the centuries, landlords have figured out certain ways or certain mechanisms in order to extract the most value from the peasant class. Okay? So let's discuss the mechanism. The first is that we've transitioned from slavery to freedom. Okay? If you really want to extract value, if you really want to extract energy and attention and focus, it's much better to give peasants the illusion of freedom rather than just enslave them. Okay? So give peasants the belief that they have control over their lives. Another way of saying freedom is equity, right? Equity. So think of a company where I might give you some equity and then you work a lot harder because you think you can make more money. Okay? So this is a first trick that we've learned over the centuries. The second trick is to make capital more abstract. Okay? So the abstraction of capital.
Hey,
Let's use an example. Okay, grain was initially capital. The problem with grain is that you only need so much. So as a peasant, you only want to work as much as necessary in order to grow grain to feed your family. And maybe a little bit more to save. But most of the time, you just want to enjoy your life. But then we transition to gold, right? And gold, yeah, people are more greedy. But the problem with gold is there's only a finite amount of it. All right? It's hard to locate. So only a minority would expend all their energy trying to locate gold. Okay? And now what we've done is we've transitioned to the idea of money. Okay? As I will show you, the great innovation of the past 100 years is to convince people that money is God. Money is both nothing and everything, and so you can spend your entire life dedicated to achieving money. Okay? So that's the second great innovation. And the third great technique that's changed economics is to understand that if you really want people to focus their energies, you need to create anxiety in them. Okay? Anxiety. And how do you create anxiety? Well, the best way is to create the idea of debt, right? So I'll lend you $1 million today, and you enjoy it, but then you have to spend the rest of the time paying it back. The problem with this, of course, is that there's interest, and so you can never really pay it back, which causes anxiety. And so the idea of debt, I can extract much more value from you than if you were not in debt. Okay? That's the first tool. Second is the idea of inequality and poverty, where a certain class of people are poor, and they'll always be poor. And that incentivizes, encourages the middle class to work even harder. All right? The third mechanism of anxiety is wealth destruction. What is wealth destruction? Simple. War or depression, right? When the economy collapses, when all your wealth vanishes. The idea here is, listen, if the peasants work really hard and they store up a lot of grain, they have a huge granary, they really don't have to work anymore, right? So as a landlord, what do? Well, you go burn down the granary. All right? So war is not just a mechanism to expand capitalism, but it's also a way to make people more anxious because you destroy their wealth and therefore they have to work a lot harder. Okay? So again, in economics class, you may taught that the point of capitalism is to accumulate more capital. No, guys. The point of capitalism is to focus the energies of the peasants. Okay? Because the attention, the focus, is what makes society much more energetic. And that's the end goal. All right? So if society is wealthy, that's actually a good thing because it makes people lazy and complacent. And so the way to resolve this issue is by constantly engaging in wars and by having the boom-bust cycle that you might learn in economics class, right? So in economics, you might learn that the boom-bust cycle is natural to capitalism. It is not natural to capitalism. It is artificial. The people in charge artificially destroy economies, to destroy wealth, to make the peasants work a lot harder. Okay? So are you guys following along? Okay? So that's the strategy that we've learned these past few centuries. And that's why in today's society, we are the wealthiest society ever in human history, and yet at the same time, we are the most miserable, we are the most anxious, and we are the most in debt, okay? Because the landlord class, the capitalists, the elite, what they figured out are three mechanisms in which to extract as much energy from us as possible. First is to give us the illusion that we have freedom in our lives, we have the freedom of choice, that we have equity in society. We can vote for our leaders. When in reality, it's all just an illusion. Okay? Second is to make money God, the end-all and be-all, both nothing and everything, the very focus of your life. And because money is so abstract, you can spend your entire life trying to achieve more and more of it, and yet at the same time, achieve nothing and nothing, okay? So think of like someone like Jack Ma, who has like more money than he can possibly spend, and what does he want? He wants more money, okay? And the third is to create anxiety in society so that people's entire existence is one of stress. And as a result, people are much more focused on work and wealth creation. Okay? And you do that by a constant process of wealth destruction. All right? So, but the problem, of course, is that when you push people too hard, when it becomes so obvious you explain people, then people will eventually revolt against you. So the solution that we figured out is, what we can do is we can actually move, okay? The landlord class can actually move somewhere else. And so when the anxiety becomes overwhelming, what will happen is the peasants will destroy each other, and the landlord moves somewhere else to the capital, and they'll come back when the peasant class have completely exhausted themselves, and they're willing to rebuild society, okay? And this process is what rules the world today. It is what we call transnational capital. In other words, the wealthy people of the world, they have absolutely no loyalty to nation or to people or to place. They only have loyalty to their capital. And they're willing to move to wherever they can, wherever they have to, in order to keep their capital safe and to grow it. And that's why a lot of people today are moving to Dubai or Hong Kong or Singapore. They don't care. They may not be of that place, but they'll go wherever they need to in order to pay less taxes, in order to avoid the social conflict created by their policies, okay, in order to find better investment opportunities. And this system is what rules the world today. But then the question is, okay, in concrete terms, what really is transnational capital? What allows transnational capital to function, to be able to move from place to place? Because remember, when you move from place to place, there are a lot of costs involved. For example, you don't really know anyone there, and so how can you trust the people? Right? And the solution that we've developed over the centuries is the idea of secret societies. So what you will learn is that secret societies and transnational capital are essentially the same thing, okay? And this is the force that rules the world today. All right, so now that I've discussed transnational capital, let's look at secret societies, like where they come from and how they work. Okay, well, secret societies exist because the landlord class and the peasant class are fundamentally different. Therefore, the motivations, the beliefs, the worldview of these two classes must be different. Okay, so the peasants, what do peasants want? They want to live a simple life. They want to make some money. They want to have a family. They want to have some fun. They want to believe in God, okay? And so for the peasant class, we have organized religion, whether it's Islam or Christianity, okay? Christianity. Jesus, right? Jesus tells you to be a good person. Confucius tells you to be a good person, right? But the landlord class, they're different. They have a responsibility, they have an obligation to control the peasant class and extract as much energy as possible in order to maintain their society. Okay? So their religious practices must be very different. So whereas the peasants can pray to God, the landlord class must fundamentally pray to Satan. Okay? So now let's look at why the landlord class must pray to Satan. And this is true for all societies throughout human history. Before, the landlord class was blatant about it, okay? Now they have to be more hypocritical, more secretive about it. All right, so let's look at the landlord class. All right, so to be a landlord class, to be an elite, you have to do terrible things. But it's actually hard to do terrible things. All right, so let me give you an example. Let's just say, I would say to you, all right, I'm gonna give you $10 million US. What you need to do is this. What you need to do is take a gun and late at night, go kill a random stranger. You think, wow, that's a really good deal. If I kill a random stranger late at night, no one's gonna know I did it, and I walk away with $10 million. And you think that I can do it, but guess what? When I actually make you go do it, you actually can't do it. Because there are lots of restrictions on your behavior, okay? So think of suicide. If I gave you $100 million and promised you a path to heaven, would you kill yourself? Probably not, okay? So suicide, killing yourself, in many ways, it's no different from killing someone else. We can't do it, okay? But there are actually hacks around this. We figured out ways to make you go kill someone in a way that doesn't make you feel that guilty about it, okay? So to understand why, I will introduce you two social science experiments that they conducted in America at the end of the 20th century, okay? The first is something called the Milgram experiment. And this was done at Yale by a psychologist named Stanley Milgram. And the experiment was very simple. What he would do is he would set up an actor, okay, this is an actor, okay, or what we call Confederate. And the person would be hooked up to an electric chair, right? And there'd be a buzzer which increases the voltage of that electric chair, okay? And there's like a max and there's a min, okay? And Stanley Milgram would be here in his lab coat, and he would invite a participant, okay, who's essentially a student, to come and be an assistant, okay? And the assistant's job was to press the button. And Stanley Milgram wanted to know, first of all, would this volunteer, this assistant, agree to shock another human being, even though he's seen the human being in pain? And second of all, Stanley Milgram wanted to see how much pain the volunteer was willing to inflict. And it turned out that with the idea of authority, okay, people are much more willing to let go of their inhibitions. Because what you're doing is you are removing responsibility from yourself to someone else. I didn't do it, I was ordered to do it. And surprisingly, people are willing to inflict a lot of pain on other people because they are able to remove responsibility for their individual actions, okay? Right, does that make sense? So the point of secret society is for people to come together and avoid taking responsibility for their actions. How? By praying to another god, right? By saying, we didn't do this, we didn't go start this war, we didn't destroy the economy, it was Satan that told us to do it. We had a meeting with Satan, we did the rituals, we summoned Satan, and Satan says, for the good of the world, you must be evil. You must go and start this war so that we can create paradise on earth. It wasn't us, it was not us, it was Satan who did this, okay? That's the point of secret society. To force yourself to believe that you have no agency in this world. And you are controlled by Satan, okay, or another god, Saturn. Okay, so it's very common for these secret societies to believe in a god called Saturn. Who is Saturn? Saturn, the Greek is Cronus. And Cronus is a god of time. Cronus is a god of time and order and structure. And Cronus would do things that were unconscionable, that were inhumane in order to maintain control of the world, including in his own children, because then his children could not rebel against him, okay? So they pray to Saturn to look for that divine energy in order to maintain order and control in the world for the good of others, okay? Not for the good of me, but for the good of others. Does that make sense? Okay, that's the first idea I need you to understand about these secret societies. They always pray to a higher god. They believe in interdimensional lizard people, or they believe in Satan, or they believe in Saturn. Who cares, okay? But they don't feel as though they're in control. They feel as though they're possessed by demons or by extraterrestrials, okay? And why? In order to do what they must to maintain their power and their wealth. Okay, that's number one. Number two is this. Another experiment that you guys might have heard of, something called the Solomon Asch experiment. Okay. And here, the experiment is 10 people in a room. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? And they all sit together, and they're just asked to tell me if this is a straight line or a circle. Okay? It's that simple. Then what happens is a volunteer is asked to come into the room, okay? And this volunteer goes last. And everyone around the room goes and tells the answer, okay? And from 1 to 10, okay, and these are all Confederates, okay? These are all part of the conspiracy. From 1 to 10, they all say this is a circle. And so by the time you get to the volunteer, who's number 11, he's like, what should I say? And often, a lot of times he'll say it's a circle, because he's trying to conform to the group. But not only that, afterwards, when he's told that, oh, there's actually a line, he's actually convinced he saw a circle. Okay?
That's crazy, bro.
Conformity.
That's crazy. That's
so two
insane.
ideas, authority and
Conformity.
is what you are now, because you are part of the society, you now have the power to take a gun, go kill someone late at night, and collect your $10 million. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? All right. And again, every society does this because often when you're part of the landlord class, the elite, the transnational capitalists, you have to do things against your own wiring, okay? Your own psychology. And that's why secret societies exist. All right. Now, sometimes secret societies are forced to do really bad things because they're often in competition with each other. And in this competition, it's always a question of like, who's more evil, okay? So what they figured out is this. They figured out how to structure the secret societies, okay, this hierarchy.
Okay, I'm gonna end the stream here because what I'm waiting for is a soup of this Asia hype, bro. It's price is moving so slow, bro. Like, oh my days, man. And I didn't enter this one because shit was looking choppy, but whatever, it is what it is.